We'll get ready to start here. Okay. Maybe not okay. We'd like to welcome everyone, all of you, to the 32nd Shape of Itasca Town Meeting. I am Jack Menching from Itasca Bank and Trust Company, and I will act as the moderator of this forum. Our format will be similar to past years. Each speaker will have approximately 5 minutes to talk about their recent accomplishments and the future plans of their organization. After everyone's had an opportunity to speak, we'll entertain questions from you, the audience. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can submit questions by addressing them to the deputy clerk at itasca.com, deputyclerk@itasca.com. For those of you here, please write out your questions, and if you hold them up and pass them to the middle, somebody will be around to pick them up, and they'll get them up here for us. The more questions we have, the better the program is, so we welcome the questions. I will then read the questions so that everyone may hear them and then direct them to the proper party. If there are multiple questions on the same subject, we'll try to group them together to help speed the evening along. We'll try to answer all of your questions if time permits. The only thing that we ask is that the questions be non-political and not get personal or into personal information. Questions of this kind will not be read as they are not appropriate for this forum. There have been many events in the village since our last meeting. We should have lots of good questions. If I can digress for a second, I had an idea and thought we could try to hold this outside so we could maybe get like 100,000 in attendance. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me count cicadas, so another idea gone bad. Okay, our speakers tonight are going to be Linda Ianni, President of Itasca Park District, Chris Kunze, President, Itasca Fire Protection District, James Barthel, Treasurer, Itasca School District 10, Board of Education, Anya Tranter, Board Vice President, Itasca Community Library, and Jeff Prine, Mayor for the Village of Itasca. Many of our speakers have brought people from their organizations to handle any questions which may get technical. We ask that they use the microphones, and they're seated on the sides along here. Our first speaker tonight is Linda Ianni. She's president of Itasca Park District. She's been on the board for 29 years, been president for 21, and lived in Itasca for 40. Linda?
I don't know where you did your math, I'll tell you. I can't believe that.
From the Park District. Oh.
Well, okay, all right. Okay, well, good evening. It's so nice to see everybody here. I'd like to thank Jack and the Itasca Bank and Trust for hosting this year's Shape. They've always done a wonderful job, and it's so nice that they continue doing it. I'm sure I'm speaking for all the board members of the Itasca Community Library, the Itasca School District 10, Itasca Fire Protection District Number 1, and the Village of Itasca when I say thank you for being here and showing your interest in how our community is doing. Here with me this evening, I have two of our commissioners. Vice President Keith McClellan is here, and I see Jeff Craven is here. I don't see Dan Kompanowski or Dave Hansen. And unfortunately, Executive Director Mary Fran Leno could not be here tonight, but we do have three of our staff. We have Nathan Kinzinger, who is our Superintendent of Finance, HR and IT. We have Lily Medina, our Superintendent of Marketing and Communications, and we have Sandy Harris, our Superintendent of Recreation. As usual, it's been a very busy year at the Park District. 4 of our parks have received grants for major upgrades and enhancements. Benson Park on Mill Road was awarded $600,000 towards a $1 million OSLED grant. Soccer fields are being added, a new shelter was put up, playground apparatus updated, basketball courts, horseshoe pit, tennis, pickleball courts, and sand volleyball. The south side, where all the new amenities are located, opens June 6th, just in about a week. On the north side, where all the soccer fields are going to be, it had to be reseeded with grass, so that's going to take a year for it to fill in. We completed the $575,000 Springbrook Nature Center Museum grant project. There's some wonderful new interior additions. There's signage throughout the whole park and enhancements. We're developing and bidding on a $1.5 million OSLED grant for the Ray Franzenberg Sanctuary and Softball Complex. Being secured by the Village of Itasca, we are developing and bidding the $500,000 pedestrian connection at the Rowling Road Complex. We're talking a lot of money through the Illinois OSLED program. I don't know where they're coming up with it, but we'll keep asking for it. All they can do is say no. Again, in partnership with the village, we were awarded a $600,000 OSLED grant for Usher Park project. All the sidewalks will be ADA compliant. We will replace the 35-plus-year-old gazebo and add pollinating plants. We'll have new seating throughout the park and permanent game structures like made out of stone. Can't be carried away. It will still be a passive park. There's not going to be any slides or swings. Development and bidding will take place this fall, and construction will begin in March. But have no fear, the Winterfest will still be held there in the winter, even though construction starts. It's going to take us a year to do that. At Franzen Park, we opened new tennis pickleball courts. Now I'd like to take a minute to talk about pickleball. I'm sure you've all heard that word. It's just no, you haven't? Okay. Many think it started in Florida, but it was created in 1965 outside of Seattle, Washington by 3 dads looking to develop something fun for their children. In 1984, the United States Pickleball Association was organized, so it's a nationwide event. Pickleball is currently exploding in popularity. Thus, Itasca has 2 parks, and we have 6 outdoor courts. And we also have indoor courts in the rec center as well. We have an adult beginning pickleball class, an adult advanced beginner pickleball class, pickleball league doubles levels, and 2 pickleball tournaments. So it's very popular. I know there's someone here that plays pickleball on a regular basis. If I knew you, if you were going to be here, I would say, never mind. Fortunately, it doesn't take up that much space, so we're able to provide the courts for our patrons. So for nearly 60 years, it has been still a popular sport. For those who are not familiar with pickleball, here are the only 2 pieces of equipment you need to play. And Brian, if I knew you were going to be here, I'd have you bring yours. We could have done a little demonstration. So it's very, very, very popular, very lightweight, and it's like a wiffle ball. So that's really taken off. Okay, we've replaced the roof and the HVAC unit on the rec center. We did major center upgrades and studio room and building improvements. In regards to programming, we have revitalized our gymnastics because some sports go through cycles. They're popular, and they go up and down, and gymnastics did that at the Park District. But the interest is back, and with the Olympics this summer, we see more opportunities for our gymnasts to advance their skills. Competitive cheerleading is our fastest growing program. Our dance program is expanding with the hiring of 2 new instructors. The Itasca Dolphins are back, hoping to win their 29th conference championship. And for our K-9 residents, don't forget the free event at the Pup Cup. That's June 9 at the Itasca Barking Lot Dog Park. They'll be playing soccer. So. This year, we have introduced before and after school care. And as always, our camp programs for the summer are very popular. There are so many fun-filled activities in our brochure, and this was sent out to every household. I think you should have got it just a couple days ago. And the schedule for the concerts in the park is listed on page 8, next to the Pup Cup on page 9. So that'll be fun. Of course, our pool opened this past weekend, but due to the rain and the cold temperatures, we were only open on Saturday. Once school is out and our guards are freed up, we will open every day as weather permits. Upcoming plans include replacing the turf at Washington Park Playground. The TOTS, that it's called playground, is used more than some rides during Itasca Fest. That turf has gotten just beaten up because the kids use that merry-go-round all the time. We're refurbishing the elevator in the rec center in late August. And for those who cannot manage the stairs to go up to the fitness center, we have a co-op with Wooddale, so you can use their fitness center while our elevator is being reconstructed. All of our programs and events are successful due to our excellent staff. 1 month ago, we heard of a new opportunity to receive a federal grant for expansion of the rec center and wetland mitigation. Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy was accepting funding requests for community projects. We have been notified that we are in the top 15. No idea of the time frame, but at least we're in running for some funds for those two projects. Usually I start with our financial numbers, but as I'm going to end with it. Our fiscal year tax rate is 0.4163. 42% of our budget comes from taxes and 58% from programs, fees, charges, grants, partnerships, and cooperative efforts. Just for your information, this July, the Itasca Park District is celebrating their 60th anniversary. At our parade on Memorial Day, our Itasca senior citizens celebrated their 60th anniversary. They were the Grand Marshals. And pickleball is almost 60 years. We all have something in common here. The third Monday of the month is when our board meetings are held at the rec center, and all are welcomed. If you have any questions or concerns, Jeff, Keith, and I are here, and the staff is here as well. Please stop and visit with us, and we will be glad to talk with you. Again, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Linda. I know I'm getting old, and I'm shrinking a little bit, but I haven't shrunk this much. This must be a really tall person's chair.
Just one on the right, Jay.
Well,
Trade.
I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. Or I'm going to hide behind the name tag here. Our next speaker is Chris Coonsey. Chris is board president of the Itasca Fire Protection District. He's been on the board for 18 years, been president for 10, and lived in town for 21. Chris?
Thanks, Jack. Jack, thanks again for hosting this, and thanks to everyone that comes out. Our meetings are also on the first and third, the first Wednesday of each month, and they're open to everyone. We, at the district, invite you to be there. Again, thanks for being here, and with me this evening is Chief Jack Schneidwin, fellow trustees John Carney, Sean McDonald, and also want to acknowledge Commissioners Pat Dempsey, Bob Olander, and Fred Isles. For us at the district, it's been a very exciting year. We've had a lot of projects planned, and a lot of them have begun, and we are excited to spend some time this evening with you and to explain where we're at. So I'll start with the big ones first. We have 2 construction projects going on. Project number 1 is the district began a refresh of our 53-year-old station. That's the main station right next door here, which is badly in need of a facelift. We kicked off the project last November by installing a new roof, and we had full tuck pointing done around the building last month. On July 1st, we'll begin major reconstruction of the building by remodeling the bunk rooms, which are sadly in need of updating, improving the energy efficiency by insulating the exterior walls, which, believe it or not, are not insulated on that building, as well as redesigning the front offices and entryway of the fireplace, all of which is to help lower our carbon footprint. The total project cost is about $1.6 million. The cost of the roof and roof replacement and the tuck pointing was approximately $400,000. That was paid out of existing reserves. The $1.6 million will be helped by funding with a construction loan from Itasca Bank. Thank you. The second project, which is a result of the merger last year of the Canadian Pacific Railroad and the Kansas City Southern Railroad, is going to begin probably this fall. The railroad, as you may or may not remember, once the merger is done, is anticipating a substantial increase in freight traffic through the village to the point where we're very concerned it'll begin to impact emergency services on the north side of the tracks. These trains are going to be so long and so frequent that they could very well clog up all of the 4 avenues that we have to the north side of the village. So with that in mind, the Board of Trustees and the Chief started reviewing options over a year ago of what we could do to make sure that we could continue to service the north side of the village. And at the end of the day, we decided the best and cheapest option was to build a smaller satellite firehouse on the north side of the tracks. It will house 1 ambulance and 1 engine. So once we had made that decision, Last November, the board approved the purchase of a site of Arlington Heights Road. It's about 3 blocks south of Devon. It's on the east side of the street. And in February of this year, we selected a local construction firm, FQC Construction Management, to design and oversee the project. We've made a lot of progress already. The design is already finalized. Please, if you want to see what the design is, come on over to the firehouse. And we'd certainly be very proud to show you what the building will look like. We've also begun the final engineering and permitting stages and expect to break ground late this year and complete the station in November or December of next year. The station will use geothermal technology for its heating and cooling. It will also have the capacity for us to add solar power later on when we have the funds available to do that. All of that will significantly reduce that station's energy footprint. The project cost is estimated at $5.2 million, and I'm very pleased to inform you that one half of that funding, $2.5 million, will be provided as an award from Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy's office. In fact, next Thursday, June 6th at noon, you're all invited. Raja's Krishnamurthy will be here to present the symbolic check to the district for the $2.5 million. That'll take place at the firehouse at noon. The balance of the funds will be provided from a construction loan to be converted to a 25-year mortgage from Itasca Bank and Trust. Because of the length of time to construct a permanent station, we also know we needed to include a temporary station. And with the assistance of Mayor Prine, Village Administrator Carrie Ergo, and Mike Supers at Public Works, we began operations last August at the Public Works facility. Our teams are housed out of a trailer there. We're housing the equipment inside the facility, and we expect to be there through December of next year. It's not ideal for the group, but we found that it works very well for servicing the north side, despite the train interference we're already beginning to see. As to our other objectives, and one other point I want to make, we did not add any equipment. We took our reserve engine, we took our reserve ambulance and placed those up in the North Station, and we split our current duty team in half. So half the team's up at the North Station, half operates out of the main station. As to our other objectives, Chief Schneidman continues to lead to the development and training of the district officers, firefighter medics, and the administrative staff, with a focus on fire prevention, staff readiness, and home safety visits. In addition, in line with our command staff plan that we put together when Chief Schneidman came on board in 2022, in May of this year, as recognition for their successful commitment and training over the last 2 years, Captains John Helsing, Ryan Raschke, and John Raschke were promoted to battalion chiefs, and Lieutenant Brooks Nicewarmer was promoted to captain. I also want to acknowledge our lieutenants Mark Baer, Dave Brzezinski, and recently promoted to Lieutenant Brett Nagel, all who play a key role in our day-to-day operations. As part of our home safety visits, and I believe we've done over 180 of those already, our crews have been installing smoke, carbon monoxide, and gas detector meters free of charge to any Itasca resident who requests an inspection. And that program was made possible through the generous donation from Itasca Bank and Trust. Our training division increased live fire, command level, and active shooting training with the Itasca Police Department, and we continue to forge strong relationships with the other fire district and police departments in our surrounding communities. Last year was the first year that we started a teen fire academy that provides young people an exposure to the fire service with the hopes that someday they may choose to make it a career choice, and it was very successful. I'm very pleased to say that we are running that event again in June and hope to make that an annual event. Regarding Haymarket, you may recall that Haymarket filed suit in January of '22 against the village, as well as the school and fire districts. The fire district, through our attorneys, filed a motion to dismiss the district from the suit, and I'm very pleased to report that the federal judge overseeing the case ruled in the district's favor earlier this year. As I close my remarks, as always, the district will continue its involvement with many of the community activities within the village, including the Memorial Day Parade, July 4th fireworks, Itasca Fest, which is the 11th through the 14th this year, and Oktoberfest in September. Unfortunately, due to the main station remodeling, which is starting next month, we will have to cancel this year's open house, but normally that's held in the end of September to kick off October, which is Fire Prevention Month, but we fully expect the open house to return for next year. In closing, I want to thank the men and women of this district whose dedication and training provide all of us as village residents an exceptional level of service. And I want to thank you for your time this evening, and we look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Sounds like nothing going on this year, huh? Yeah. Our next speaker is James Barthel. He is treasurer, Itasca School District 10. He's been on the board for 3 years, been treasurer for 1 year, and lived in town for 22. James?
Thank you. With me tonight are Superintendent Craig Bennis, and you also might have noticed Principal Jason Taylor downstairs welcome you with some updates on the referendum. I also want to thank the taxing bodies as well as Itasca Bank and Trust for sponsoring the event. We judge ourselves in the school district in really 6 main areas: student safety and citizenship, academic excellence, fiscal responsibility, community relationships, professional learning, and capital development. And so for student safety and citizenship, District 10 continues to require community service hours for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. This year's graduating class performed over 2,300 hours of community service, which is very impressive. We continue to push for that every year. And when we look at safety, though, the safety of our students and employees is very important to us. And part of the referendum spending was to really get that updated security system installed. It's been installed. It's up and running in all 3 schools. I really want to thank the Itasca Police Department for their guidance in this, as well as the district's IT and operations teams for getting these in place and up and running. The advancement in social media continues to be a bit of a challenge for the district. The code of conducts have been updated as we strive for higher behavioral expectations, and the violations are now directly linked to loss of privileges. For instance, if a student violates, they might lose the privilege to go on a field trip. We're also in the process of implementing a social emotional learning curriculum to give the students more tools to face the challenges of today. The board recently approved the curriculum, and we are also offering training to employees of the other taxing bodies that frequently interact with our kids. When we talk about academic excellence, quite frankly, we thought we could have done a little bit better on performance last year, and we got a little bit tougher in 2023. We changed the schedules to put more emphasis on math and reading. A new reading curriculum was introduced last year, and a new math curriculum has been approved to be implemented in this coming year. We're already seeing growth from some of the changes we've already made. Our year-over-year IAR testing results are showing a 22% increase in the amount of students at or above grade level for reading, and a 13% increase for math. We look to continue to improve in these areas, and we want to note that these improvements were made without really cutting time from any of our excellent fine arts or athletics programs. We're proud to continue to fully fund arts and athletics, even as some nearby districts cut and save in those areas. We continue to review all curriculum every 6 to 8 years. Our selections are based on data that is peer-reviewed. And this year we strengthened the Passport experiential learning, that we still offer the outdoor education to the 5th graders, but we're really offering additional education and team building opportunities to other grade levels. Example of the field trips include things like the Nature Center for younger students and trips to Springfield, the Field Museum and Art Institute for older students. Next year, Peacock School, in coordination with Lake Park, will start offering Spanish for high school credit. We'll also continue to build off our partnerships already there in math, where right now we actually have, this past year for 8th grade, we had 46 students take algebra and 23 take geometry. And right now we already have 27 7th graders that are in algebra. For fiscal responsibility, this district passes balanced budgets. We focus on improvements for current students, but not at the expense of any future students. We as a board administration take our responsibility for long-term planning very seriously. We are audited annually and strive for transparency. Our rating for borrowing remains at AA1, which is the highest possible rating we can achieve. Our financials have been reviewed by Moody's twice over the last 5 years. When Moody's looks at our financials as part of the latest round of referendum funding, their comment was, "You told us what you were going to do, and you did it." They then promptly reaffirmed our rating. And you might ask, what does this mean to me? Well, due to the favorable interest rates and our rating, the cost of the referendum, you're actually looking at about $50 less per year for the cost of the referendum that was approved a few years ago per household. So if you look at that another way, that would basically say we're providing you the same improvements at about a cost savings of about 15%. So overall, with community relationships, we continue to do the overall engagement survey with 5 essential family and students annually. And we continue to adjust with that and maintain our strong relationships with the other taxing bodies. We're always open to discuss ways to better serve our community. We recently hired a communications specialist to share more about the district's ongoing activities. Gives us a little bit more of a reaction in real time to what our students are up to, whether it's raising thousands for the American Heart Association or collecting cereal boxes to create a domino-style chain reaction before they donate those to the food pantry. We're also happy to welcome the Itasca seniors again this year for the music performance, which was Shrek Jr. And we continue to look for any other ways that we can coordinate with our the other taxing bodies or with the community to really interact and get you a little bit closer to what's happening every day. On the professional learning side of things, we really love our teachers to be lifelong learners and give them opportunities to continue to develop their tools and skills through professional learning and coaching. We want to be a district where valued educators can spend their entire career and look for ways to promote from within when possible. We recently approved a succession plan and appointed Dr. Heidi Weeks as Deputy Superintendent. Dr. Weeks is an impressive candidate and will become superintendent when Craig Bennis retires in a few years. In choosing Dr. Weeks, we used a thorough data-driven process that involved feedback from taxpayers, local educators, and the educational community in the overall decision. This process overall saves us money that would have been spent on a search firm and also provides us stability that allows us to execute some of our short and long-term goals. We strive to maintain our strong relationship with our unions. Our contract with the educators runs through 2028, and our support staff contract is on track to be extended at the next board meeting. I think we've got tentative approval today. Yeah, another 3 years on top of that one. Yep. So that one's in good shape as well. On the capital development side, I really want to thank all of you again for approving the referendum to modernize our schools. Hopefully you were able to review our progress at displays downstairs. There'll be an additional opportunity for a tour for the improvements at Benson School on Monday, June 3rd at 9:30 a.m. And to date, we have completed the addition onto Benson School, the renovated libraries at Benson and Franzen, the new science labs at Peacock, the security systems at all schools. And over the next few summers, we will upgrade the plumbing, the bathrooms, the HVAC work, and also some additional safety upgrades. Additional projects that have been completed are the Peacock drop-off lane. I want to thank Mike Subers as well as Mark and the village for their help with that one. And we also did some new interior lighting at Peacock that we funded via ISB grants and ComEd. The district also recently purchased the St. Matthew's Church property on North Catalpa across from Franzen School. We'd like to thank the church for being a good neighbor and to recognize their countless contributions to the community over the past several decades. This purchase allows the district to continue to use the parking lot and allows for additional opportunities in the future. Before we finish, I'd like to say thank you to our Superintendent Craig Bennis, parent-teacher organization, music boosters, chaperones, administrative team, support staff, community members, and of course our educators that work together to go above and beyond to provide our student opportunities to excel and make us proud now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Our next speaker is Anya Tranter. She is the Board Vice President at Itasca Community Library. She's been on the board for 2.5 years, been Vice President for 1 year, and lived in town for 42.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Anya Tranter, Vice President of Itasca Community Library Board of Trustees. Thank you to Itasca Bank and Trust for your generosity in continuing the tradition of sponsoring the Shape of Itasca. And thank you, Mr. Menching, for hosting. I want to take also this opportunity to thank the other Itasca Community Library Board members, some of which are here tonight. Paul Nelson, President, Patricia Schumacher, Secretary, Mike Golden, Treasurer, and members Ann Bainey, Sharon Laughlin, and Renee Fitzgerald. Thank you to the board for their dedication in supporting the library and to the wonderful staff who make the library a great place to visit and work. At the library, we hope to create a welcoming and friendly environment where Itasca residents can learn, study, and play. Program at the library was well received by residents. 1,744 adults attended programs last fiscal year, an increase of 24%. Some of the library's most popular programs for adults were flower arranging, local history programs, and the very popular craft kits. Attendance at children's programs also grew to 15,120, up from 14,337, which was a 5% increase. Story times, crafts, and STEM programs were big draws for Itasca children this year. For things to read and watch, the library added 6,504 new items for you all to enjoy. And even without setting foot inside the building, residents are finding books to enjoy. E-checkouts represented 25% of overall circulation this past year. That's no surprise with almost 200,000 items available for checkout, even if you're in your pajamas. Fiscally, the library strived to put taxpayer funds to good use. Additional funds were transferred into the library's special reserve fund to allow for future capital projects. The library worked with this fiscal year with Itasca-based Williams Architects to develop a comprehensive space plan and capital needs assessment.
Anya, could you just please pull your microphone a little
Sure.
closer to you? Thank you.
Sure. The assessment identified several priority capital projects that the library will need to tackle in the next few years. The Special Reserve Fund will allow the library to fund capital projects without needing to go out for referendum. The space plan will help sequence these projects, like a new roof and renovations to the bathrooms and meeting rooms, to allow for the best possible outcome. In progress projects at the library include the library's partially grant-funded elevator modernization project, which should be completed by early fall. This project will make the elevator more accessible and refresh interior finishes and lighting. The library is also developing a new exterior sign to better market the library's programs and give vital status updates to the community. The library continues to offer many great non-book resources and services. Passport applications and license plate renewals were processed for over 700 people. The library's meeting rooms were used 720 times by community groups, including the Lions Club, Itasca Mahjong Group, Itasca Garden Club, and many more. On average, at least one of the library's study rooms was in use every hour the library was open. Library staff answered 6,893 specialized reference questions from patrons over the last fiscal year. The library also has great things planned for the summer. We'd like to invite everyone, young and old, to participate in the library's summer reading clubs. Please join us and your neighbors for the summer kickoff, which is next Thursday, June 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. You can register then and enjoy a free Kona ice treat. Last year, more than 700 Itasca residents took part, so you'll be in good company. The summer reading clubs are already open for sign-up and will conclude on July 31st. Additionally, for kids, June is full of great story times and craft programs. In July, there's a bubble show on July 8th that shouldn't be missed. For adults, you can learn how to go birding, make natural soap, or how to use an iPad. That's in addition to regular trivia nights, knit and craft club, and the monthly book discussions. Something to pencil in to your calendars later this year is the annual Christmas tree decorating contest and the library's Winter Carnival. Last December, 13 organizations participated to decorate Christmas trees. 1,733 votes were cast to support those groups. The Lake Park Girls varsity basketball team won, but second place were the Lancer Soccer Club. Third place was Friends of the Library, and they'll be looking to a challenge next year. Our thanks to all organizations for bringing their holiday spirit to the library. This past January, more than 300 people attended our first annual Winter Carnival, which was a day of games, crafts, and food stations. Even Bluey attended. Big hit. The library will be offering the Winter Carnival again in January, so you have something to look forward to once the holiday festivities have concluded. We appreciate this opportunity to inform fellow Itasca residents of all the ways the library is a community anchor. Come visit the library. You'll find something for everyone in your family. Thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next Thursday for our summer kickoff. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. And if everybody can kind of pull their microphones just a little closer, they're having some problems in the back on that. But the mayor talks very loud, so. Our next speaker is Jeff Prine, Mayor, Village of Itasca. Been on the board for 29 years, been mayor for 15, and been in town for 59. Jeff?
Well, thank you, Jack. And before we get started, because it's so short, definitely that's not my chair, typically. And I do have a lot of good things to report, so I'm going to probably violate your 5-minute rule. So
You're more than welcome. You get most of the questions in.
I want to welcome all of you to the 32nd Shape of Itasca. It's great to see such a big crowd here, that our residents are taking such an interest in their local governments. It's nice to see. And I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to the Itasca Bank and Trust. Their long-standing tradition of community involvement and ongoing support make this and so many more events possible. For those unfamiliar, Itasca Bank was established by the Franzen and the Menching families, names that many of you might recognize. These families have significantly contributed to our community's growth, from serving on school boards to providing loans to World War II veterans, Their legacy of kindness and civic duty is truly commendable. So I'd like to ask all of us to give them a well-deserved round of applause.
Thank you.
So it is so nice to see many friends and neighbors chose to join us today. My parents, Tom and Nancy Prine, who are longtime residents, are here. They, along with my grandparents, fostered within me a profound sense of civic responsibility. Additionally, my wife, Christy, has been a constant source of support, and I could not do this job that I love without her unwavering support and encouragement. Earlier this month, the village had the pleasure of welcoming friends and fifth graders for a tour of the village hall, and many of them were third-generation Itascans, eagerly asking if they knew their parents, if I knew their parents or their grandparents. And observing this curiosity and this enthusiasm from them was uplifting. And it's a reassuring sign that the future of Itasca will be in good hands. I look forward to seeing the good work that will come from these future leaders. Building a sustainable future requires careful planning and a clear vision, and it's something that does not happen overnight. Real success comes from establishing a strong foundation and gradually building upon it. Over the past several years, trustees Jeff Ianni, Brendan Daly, Dino Gavanis, Ellen Leahy, Frank Medeiros, Patrick Powers, and I have been laying the groundwork to foster sustainable economic growth for generations to come. And a significant milestone in our efforts was the adoption of our downtown plan. Developed with the values, desires, and insights of all of you, our residents, it serves as a comprehensive guide to what is envisioned for the future. And the clear message from the residents is that you want a vibrant downtown with dining options and activities. To assist with this, the village board approved its first ever tax increment financing district, or a TIF, last year. And a TIF is a method of public financing that directs future increases in property taxes from a specified area to fund improvements exclusively within that area. This allows the village to provide financial support for downtown development without having to increase taxes. And I'd like to thank the school district and all the other taxing bodies for their support in approving our TIF. Within its first year, the TIF has successfully enabled a developer to pursue a project that will rejuvenate the corner of Orchard and Maple Street. This fall, Holiday Properties is scheduled to break ground on a mixed-use building with a ground floor restaurant and 87 luxury apartments. And this is a significant step forward that will enhance our downtown's charm and provide new prospects for businesses and residents alike. Though financial incentives are important, the condition of our roads and our water infrastructure also greatly influences our ability to attract development. Last year, the village prioritized upgrading its downtown infrastructure. We replaced aging water mains, installed new storm sewers, and constructed curbs throughout the downtown area. We now have the infrastructure backbone that can effectively accommodate future growth without strain. As you drive down Walnut Street, you may have noticed a for lease sign on the Keynes building. When I learned that the Keynes had decided to retire and sell their property, I asked the village board to acquire it, which we did. This ensures that any future development on this critical block aligns with the community's vision as outlined in our downtown plan. The village is following the same open and transparent process that we used for the Full of Beans property to identify potential operators. The village is currently seeking requests for proposals with the help of a local realtor, Chris McAllister. Throughout the summer, the board will evaluate potential food and beverage businesses in hopes of securing an operator who will contribute to the vibrancy of our community. And speaking of Full of Beans, I'm excited to share that they are nearing their one-year anniversary. In the short period of time, they've become an integral part of our community. And besides Full of Beans, Q Smart Billiards, Color Palette, Ricky Rockets, Joe Donut, and a French hair salon whose name I'm going to bravely attempt to pronounce. But please forgive me, I took Spanish in high school, not French, but I think it's Salon de Chavou. We're all celebrating their one-year anniversaries. So your support not only sustains them, but also attracts new business to our community. Since last May, we've welcomed 36 new businesses, ranging from limousine services to engineering firms, tutoring centers, catering companies, and a new cocktail club, No School Tomorrow, at the Itasca Country Club. So let's continue to showcase what Itasca does best by supporting one another and assuring that there are many more anniversaries to celebrate. Church Street Brewing Company is a prime example of how businesses thrive when they receive our support. After establishing themselves in the craft beer world and becoming a staple in Itasca, they expanded their operations to a temporary beer garden in the Hamilton Lakes Business Park in 2022. Following 2 successful summers, they've made the beer garden a permanent fixture. And they've additionally opened Barley House at 500 Park Boulevard this past winter, which offers lunch and dinner options for both locals and professionals passing through the business park. So don't miss the chance to stop by this summer and enjoy their laid-back outdoor seating. And besides Church Street and the Hop Garden, there are numerous places around town where you can enjoy the summer weather while supporting local businesses. Tree Guys Pizza, Fox and Turtle, Full of Beans, Bona Beef, Naxos, Antonio's, and Eaglewood all offer outdoor dining experiences. And after your meal, remember to treat yourself to dessert. You can swing by the country club and grab your favorite pint of Undici Gelato to enjoy on the go. And for those of you seeking a more mature dessert, you can stop by Wine With Me and explore their selection of dessert wines. On Saturday, June 22nd at 9 a.m., I will be enjoying one of Eagle's beautiful patios for my Coffee with the Mayor series, and I invite all of you to join me for this free event. If you've not attended a Coffee with the Mayor yet, now is the time to do so. You can get an update on what's happening in town, you can enjoy snacks from a local restaurant, and you can learn about existing businesses. And I want to give a big thank you to our recent host, the Gift of Hope, for welcoming us to their facility earlier this month. Redevelopment and expansion are underway throughout town, especially in the Hamilton Lakes Business Park. Attendees of the 4th of July fireworks celebration will notice several developments since last year. One significant project is NTT's ongoing transformation near Pierce and Arlington Heights Road. Over the past few years, they've converted 19 acres of land into a technology corridor. And after investing $800 million into 2 buildings, NTT is now in the process of developing construction plans for a 3rd building, which will expand across another additional 8 acres. And meanwhile, at 200 Pierce, MEI Systems is ready to break ground on their new facility. MEI is a renowned international company recognized for producing lens cutting machines for brands like Ray-Ban and retailers such as LensCrafters. This state-of-the-art facility will not only enhance property values, but also contribute to the continuous growth in the business park. And then moving over to Devon and Rolling, you'll find the recently constructed shopping center, which will soon welcome Big B Coffee to our town. With over 354 franchises across the United States, we're excited to have this national chain become part of our community. And in addition to Big B Coffee, the developer is also working on bringing other restaurant options to the shopping center. In 2011, the state of Illinois slashed the amount of your income tax dollars that is sent back to Itasca in support of local services that you use every day, like police protection, road maintenance, garbage collection, and so much more. Since then, Itasca has been shorted $8.7 million that we could have used to reduce flooding improve roads, or lower your property taxes. So the next time a Springfield politician grouses that property taxes are too high, ask them why they are no longer paying their fair share of the LGDF. And thanks to our strong economy, the village has managed to maintain a balanced budget once again for 2024. I'd like to thank staff for their assistance in drafting this budget. They worked hard to secure millions of dollars in grant funds for various local projects, including road improvements, sidewalks, installations, updates to Usher Park, and enhancements to our food pantry. This achievement speaks volumes about the leadership of Administrator Urgo and the dedication of the entire team at the Village of Itasca, including Director of Police Robert O'Connor, Public Works Director Mike Subers, Finance Director Jennifer Ramsey, and Village Engineer Mark Wesolowski. Let's give them a round of applause for their hard work and commitment. Now let's discuss some of the projects that we will be funded by grants. And I know Linda and Chris have already touched on a couple of them, but I have a few more and then I'll add a little bit to what they had said. But one such project made possible by grant funding is the Devon Park Pierce Initiative. And if you work near or in the Hamilton Lakes Business Park, you likely remember the bottleneck, especially during rush hour, when exiting the park and heading towards Route 53. To address this issue, the village has been working on reconfiguring lane patterns. And to fund this $3.6 million project, the village secured several grants that cover 70% of the cost. By next year, we'll have new permanent traffic signals, new lane configurations, and sidewalks on the east side of Park, providing pedestrians with a safe route from the business park to Devon. The village also secured a $100,000 grant from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, which allowed us to renovate the Itasca Food Pantry earlier this year. We upgraded the electrical, HVAC, and plumbing systems. Additionally, we improved the public entrances by installing ADA-compliant double doors, enhancing accessibility for all patrons. So be sure to check out these recent improvements the next time you visit the pantry. Another project partially funded by grant money is the Ray Franzen pedestrian walkway. The village worked with the Park District to secure a $600,000 grant. This funding, combined with village funds, will create a connection between the bird sanctuary and the Spring Lake Business Park, which will establish the first ever pedestrian link over the Springbrook Creek. Construction is scheduled to begin on August 1st. Upon completion, pedestrians will be able to travel from the downtown district through the Spring Lake Business Park and connect to the boardwalk and pathway system at the Ray Franzen Bird Sanctuary. Through another collaboration, the Park District, we were successfully able to secure another $600 grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for our Usher Park improvements. And with contributions from both the Park District and the village, there's substantial funding available to rejuvenate what many of us consider to be the heart of Itasca. Construction on a new gazebo, interpretive trails, a natural play area, swing benches around the pond, and accessible pathways to improve park connectivity will begin in early spring 2025. And this project represents another step towards boosting downtown activity and engagement. I'd like to express my gratitude to State Senator Seth Lewis and Representative Jennifer Sanalitro for their role in securing many of our grants. Their constant updates on funding opportunities and letters of support have been immensely valuable. And additionally, Itasca's U.S. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy has been a strong advocate for our community, particularly in our opposition to the Canadian Pacific Kansas City train merger. And thanks to his support, the fire district secured $2.5 million to finance the new fire station on the north side of town. And given the understandable fatigue from the construction of the past few summers, there will be minimal work on our streets this summer. Currently, our focus is going to be on roadway maintenance projects, which primarily involve pavement resurfacing on Bryn Mawr Avenue from Arlington Heights Road to Willow Street, Willow Court, and the parking lot full of beans. And additionally, we are conducting roadway patching and crack filling throughout the town. Over the past year, we focused on improving our water infrastructure. Every Itasca water customer has been required to upgrade their water meter. And within 7 months, over 2,900 water meters have been successfully replaced. And I really want to tell everyone how much we appreciate everyone's cooperation in securing a more sustainable water infrastructure for our community. We couldn't have done it without your help. Now, I understand that even mentioning water may raise concerns among some residents about water bills. And I want to begin this discussion by assuring all of you that your concerns have been heard by all of us on the board. And that is why we've contracted to have an independent evaluation of our water rates through a comprehensive water and sewer rate study. So this study aims to analyze our existing rates and how they correspond to the expenses associated with providing water services to our community. Our goal is to establish a rate structure that can adequately fund essential infrastructure improvements, such as water main replacements, as well as maintain critical infrastructure like the wastewater treatment plant, while also covering operational costs. And additionally, it must account for any rate increases mandated by the City of Chicago. Now, while the study has been ongoing, I've advocated to freeze our water rates, and I appreciate the board's support in keeping the rates unchanged since January of 2022. And once the study concludes, we'll share the findings with the community. And alongside all of our ongoing projects, we also have a variety of free events. With activities organized by both the Park District and the library, there's always something happening. So please make sure to mark your calendars for a date night at our Concert in the Park series, which occurs every first and third Wednesday from June to August, with the exception of July when it shifts to the third and the fifth Wednesday. And you can get a complete schedule of what the bands are on both the Villages and the Park District's website. And please don't miss our annual 4th of July fireworks show, which is co-sponsored with Hamilton Partners. And that's the perfect lead up to Itasca Fest, which is co-sponsored by the Village and the Lions Club. And if you're looking for a chance to connect with the community and have some fun, come join us for the National Night Out on Tuesday, August the 6th. It's a great opportunity to engage with our police officers and to get acquainted with several of our new officers. And if you're interested in learning more about the important work that our police department does, they will be hosting their Citizens Police Academy in the fall and the spring. So please keep an eye out for more details in our newsletter and on our website. And now I know everyone is curious about what is going on with Haymarket. As Chris had reported earlier, recently the courts made the determination to remove both the school district and the fire district from the lawsuit. And now that all the parties have been finalized, discovery and the depositions are underway. And apart from these developments, there really is limited information that I can provide as this case proceeds towards trial. In closing, I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone who has contributed to the progress and well-being of our community. From the village board and staff to our dedicated residents, businesses, and partners. It is their collective efforts and commitment that can continue to propel Itasca forward. And as we tackle these challenges and embrace opportunities, let's stay united in our common objectives of making Itasca a lively, inclusive, and flourishing place to live, work, and play. So thank you all for listening, and sorry I violated my 5 minutes, but that was all good information.
No problem. Mayors always get extra time. Okay, we've got a lot of good questions here. Some of these may have been already answered from the speakers. If they have anything more they want to add, the speakers, that's fine. If not, I can just say we've already talked about it. For the mayor, Why is nothing being done about the constant speeding on both George Street and on Bloomingdale Road? There are no signs or police patrolling. Also, are electric bikes, go-karts, scooters allowed on the streets in Itasca? There's actually about 2 or 3 questions on the electric scooters or bikes.
And I don't want, it's not that nothing is being done. We have looked at both of those, and I'll ask, Bob to address on what we've done with both of the speeding issues, and then also to address about the legality of the.
Thank you, Mayor. So I can tell you, as far as the speeding is concerned, I was just looking at some statistical data before I arrived here today, and from January to April, the police department conducted 362 traffic stops on Bloomingdale Road. It's something we take very seriously. It's 25 miles an hour, it's a residential area. There are some stop signs that are encumbered along the way. We've put out the speed trailers when officers are unable to be physically on the scene. We'll continue to be out there. Our first priority are the general public calls, and then on dedicated time, we try to hit those areas that are affected. And as far as the George Street, we were out there again, looking at some statistical data. We had there were about 13,000 cars over a 16-day window period of time. The mean average, or the mean speed, was 26 miles an hour, but that didn't still persuade us. We would still get out there. We get out there at different times. So, when we get a concern from a resident, we take it very seriously. We want to address those matters, but I really want you to understand that we do get out there, and we do cite when we try to educate first, but then we will cite. Priority, safety is priority number 1. So I feel very comfortable, very confident in the amount of traffic activity being conducted in town, but we can always raise the bar, and we will continue to do so. If you have a particular street or a particular concern, police@itasca.com will get to us, or you can always call the department, speak with the on-duty sergeant, and he'll get that to the traffic manager sergeant, and we can attempt to address those issues that are of concern of yours. As far as the ordinances on the motorized vehicles that we start to see now, a lot of those are gifts from the Christmas time and graduation gifts. An ordinance was enacted last year. It's a little bit of a lengthy ordinance because it had to be. It takes into account bikes with motors on them. It encumbers the hoverboards that you hear of, and there's about a half a dozen other definitions on there. They are not allowed at any time in a nature center. The only exception, of course, would be some sort of motorized wheelchair apparatus for somebody who is in need of that. Our officers are keenly aware that this is an issue oftentimes for either motoring traffic or pedestrians as they traverse the streets. We will be out there. We are out there. And again, call. If you call, we will absolutely be out there. Thank you.
Anybody want to raise your hand if you've been stopped on Bloomingdale Road or George Street? Yeah, oh, just kidding. Just kidding. For the mayor, what is happening on Marino Court, where all the properties were sold?
Well, Marino Court, and maybe Carrie Ann, it has been purchased by a developer. They have not come in with a plan yet of what they're proposing on that property. We annexed it and did change the zoning.
Yeah, so it was a pre-annexation agreement and went through the annexation process. It is currently zoned similar to the property that's just to the south of it, which is OR, so it's office research. However, the purchaser was the data center company that's already in town, and it's a potential growth spot for them. So data centers are allowed in the OR zoning district.
But they haven't brought in
They have not brought a plan, and it's a future growth spot, so we're not anticipating that development to happen anytime soon. There's not enough, so there's a power shortage in the area, so a substation needs to be built in order to provide power and additional expansion. Yeah, my understanding is that they will, so when everybody is vacated there, the intention is to demo.
For the school district, why does a small school district require so many highly paid administrators and coaches? Where's Marty when you need him, huh?
Yes. So overall, there's probably a couple different layers to this one. So I think that in total, in terms of the ratios with the students, we're at par with a lot of our neighboring districts. I think there's probably also a question there also about really us naming that transition plan with Dr. Weeks as deputy superintendent. So we do have both Craig Bennis and Heidi Weeks on the staff for the next couple of years as we're working on that transition. And I think that the way that Marty Lundeen described this when we had the board meeting where we discussed this a few months ago was he really kind of described we had a lot of big changes to make in a hurry, and we really felt that Mr. Bennis was really the right person at the time to execute a lot of those changes. We're doing this capital referendum, we're redoing our schools, we've also got a lot of different changes we're doing in curriculum. And so he was really kind of the sprinter, and then we really moved at that point in time to kind of hand it off to Dr. Weeks, who will be a little bit more the marathon runner, who will kind of keep everything going from that point forward. So that was really more the reference that we kind of made a few months ago. And so at that point in time, we'd really be through some of the changes and probably look to reevaluate where we're at that time.
Short term, we're consistent with student to administrator ratios for the county, and we're consistent with average administrator pay rates. So I know at times those salaries can look big. If we probably weren't here, they would probably even be bigger. In the meanwhile, we're going to keep working hard to deliver the results that the community deserves.
For the mayor, when is Willow Street going to be updated? It's the same cow path since I located to Itasca in 1972. Everything else has property over Willow Street, priority over Willow Street.
Well, we will be doing some resurfacing in that area this year as far as the long-term curb and gutter, urbanizing the streets. We do have plans to do that. We've basically 5 stages. We've taken care of phases 1 and 2. We're now in the process of trying to find the dollars to finish the last 3 stages, which hopefully we will find those dollars in the next year and can get started on it. Probably take 4 or 5 years to finish up totally once we find the money.
When I was a kid, we used to walk down Willow Street, keep going, and go to the farmers area, and there were cows down there. So it really was, that was the Forky Farm. For the Park District, great job. Great job on the numerous grants. Is that one person's job to be doing, or is it done through who does the lengthy paperwork, and how do they get served to hand, or do they, great job on the grants. How is that handled at the Park District?
Well, I don't do it, I'll tell you that. But no, Mary Fran Leno, our executive director, is the queen of doing grants. I only know of one grant. She's been with us for 30 years, and I only know of one grant that she did not receive, and this was many years ago. It was for something down at Benson, and since then, we've got a grant for Benson. So we have to give credit. When we were reviewing her this year, she has obtained for the Park District over $7 million of grant money. So if you want to hire her to write a grant, she's on vacation for the next 2 weeks, well deserved. But she is the one, and she works with like some of our architects and people that we will work with on projects for the grant money. So we have to give her all the credit, right?
For the mayor, when will the street rebuilding regarding programs start again? Phase 1 and 2 are completed and look great, but what is the time frame for phase 3, 4, and 5?
Well, as I just mentioned, we don't technically have a timeline yet. The first timeline is trying to find the revenue sources so we can finish it up, which we are diligently doing. So hopefully I'll have an answer for you at next year's shape.
For the mayor, who oversees the work done in the fall that was done by the cable work underground project?
Mike, do you know who did that? That was contracted through AT&T or through some of the cable companies, right?
Yeah. So they have, while it's permitted through community development, they're actually private companies, and the state gives them wide berth as far as how that they can install. They've kind of taken over because we are a non-home rule community, so we don't have a lot of ability to regulate what they do in our right-of-way. That being said, if you have an issue with a contractor who's done something in the right-of-way, any of the utilities, whether they're a phone company or cable company, do please call community development, because while we don't have a lot of actual enforcement that we can do there, we can bug them and do bug them on a regular basis and just stay on them so that they don't forget to come back and fix what they broke, basically, and leave the parkways like that. So if there is a parkway problem after they've come through, please come back and come to community development and let us know where it is, and we'll contact them.
For the mayor, are you, not you personally, are you allowed to feed squirrels in Itasca? If illegal, who do you report it to?
I'm not aware of an ordinance that prohibits it, and even if, I don't know that we could pass that law, even if, so, and I don't think we have the authority to keep people from feeding squirrels.
I had a neighbor that was feeding skunks. That's a bad one. That was years ago, though. For the Park District, are there any considerations being made for the Memorial Day Parade to be held on both sides of town, perhaps even years south side and odd years on the north side?
Yes, this year it was supposed to be on the north side, but we were told by Public Works or someone in the village that there was going to be construction on Bryn Mawr, which was addressed, and that's why we moved it back to the south side. And we are planning to rotate it, the north side and the south side, but last year it was on the south side, and this year it was because of the potential work on Bryn Mawr.
This could be to the fire, they might be able to answer it, or to the mayor, whichever. How frequently are the freight trains going to be coming through Itasca?
We got the chairwoman of the coalition, so you probably could,
Oh,
Carrie Ann could probably address that the best.
Yeah, so the freight trains, they're expecting traffic to increase fourfold. And they're also expecting the trains to go from where they right now are under a mile long to double in size, approximately 2 miles or over. And so that will slow trains down through the area. So that has been the concern all along. We have not, at this point, seen the train lengths. While the train lengths have increased, we haven't seen the volume to the extent that we thought, frankly, because there's not as much freight running across the country on trains right now. So it's kind of a temporary reprieve from what we're expected to see long term. So we're currently working with Canadian National Kansas City, whatever their new name is. They, part of what the coalition was able to achieve for the communities is some mitigation measures. And so one of those mitigation measures will be early warning signs and systems that both first responders will have in their vehicles, Hopefully that will let them know when a train is approaching so that they can go around that area and route around. But the other is for actually people in their cars. And so that if you are coming down, for example, and we're still looking at where to do that, like Prospect or Route, most Prospect or Route 53, Rowling, that there would be some early warning signs so that you would know, like, hey, a train is coming in, it's expected to block for this long if you want to reroute. Yeah. Yeah, their goal is to run them mainly in the evening because they are Metro tracks and Metro has priority during the daytime for that. So I think they will mostly be in the evening, but it's been a fascinating, and I won't go on too long, we can talk after, but a fascinating exercise just to learn that there's nowhere in federal or state law that limits train sizes at all, so they can make them as long as they'd like.
The comment was, and we can't really take questions or people speaking because people can't hear, but the comment was they live near Schiller Street or on Schiller Street, and they're counting all the cars, the freight trains as they go by, and it's quite lengthy. So, for the Park District, speaking of pickleball, the Franzen courts are great, but how about windscreens and a practice hit board for the courts? Signed, your friend over there. Oh.
No, Brian didn't do that, did you, Brian? No. This is the first we've heard about anyone talking about windscreens or boards for that. We just opened the courts at Franzen and the ones at Benson, they're just being opened. So we haven't had, personally, I haven't heard of any feedback about that. Inside the gym, of course, you know, it's all controlled because it's interior. So unless, Sandy, you know of something else about that, no. But this is the first that we've, at the board meeting, it's never come up. You know, the nice pickleball stuff is, but not, no, and the wiffle ball, so, okay.
For the school district, if reading improved by 22%, how low was the reading score?
Well, I'd rather look at it the other way. We're over 70% overall. That's inclusive of second language learners and diverse learners. And if you match that across the county for school districts, it's actually quite high. So it's a score I'm going to celebrate.
Good. For the mayor, years ago, Itasca had a code officer. It seems anything goes now, i.e. semi-trucks in driveways, campers all year long, commercial vehicles on property, extremely tall grass, garbage cans in front of the house, etc. Anything being done on that?
Well, we still do have a code enforcement officer, and we try to do our best. I know the police officers kind of look for some of those things too. We don't see them all. Certainly if you see some property maintenance issues that need to be corrected, you can contact the community development department and let them know, and we'll go out and take a look at it. We try to do as best a job we can, but we don't see it all.
For the mayor, and this is kind of just reiterating, but new areas. A lot of traffic violations, speeding on Walnut Division, North Street, Bryn Mawr. Some people running stop signs, and seeing a lot of kids riding electric bikes and motor scooters.
Again, we do our best to enforce that. And, you know, I walk a lot around in town, so I do see these, but again, unless the officer sees it, there's not much can be done about it. And we do only usually have, two officers on the street at a time, so they can't be everywhere.
For the school district, is any curriculum in the district pushing gender information, use of alternate pronouns, or any related subjective content?
No, it's not. We follow the state standards, not the national standards. And with our health and life safety curriculum, we do a previewing with the parents in advance so they can elect to opt out of any thing else with that. But the national standards that would include some of what you referenced, we actually do not follow.
For the mayor, who do you call to report property not being taken care of?
That you would contact the Community Development Department.
Yeah, or you can just use the village's main line and you'll get transferred over
Do we have
there.
anything on the website where you can report it?
You can, there's actually a form on the website, so you can, click there to report a concern. But I mean, the easiest way is to just call the main line and talk to Melody and she'll transfer you to the right place and get it all recorded.
For the fire department, wasn't the railroad supposed to pay for the new firehouse?
Well, it would have been nice, but that never actually came up. There was no funding available, or they made no funding available for any improvements of any of the villages that are affected by the line. I'm going to turn that over to Carrie Ann. She was part of the coalition.
Yeah. So early in the process, they had basically come through and said, hey, we would do $1 million for the entire mitigation per community across the thing. Basically, the communities came back and said that is not even a drop in the bucket between what it's going to take to actually mitigate. So the mitigation measures that are actually being enforced, like the notifications to the 911 system and in the cars for police and fire, the notifications outside of that, quiet zones, preservations in all the communities are well over the amount that they would have had, that they put on the table to pay the municipalities. But unfortunately, they never came up with individual funds, and nor did the STB require them to do it. And the coalition put together an original, it was about $400 million of improvements to really mitigate, the traffic and other impacts. And obviously it doesn't come close to doing that, so.
And they also stipulated that we would have had to drop our opposition to the merger, which we were unwilling to do.
And if anybody has follow-ups on the questions, the people will stay around after the program. You're welcome to come up and talk with them and ask questions. For the mayor, whatever happened to the Bank of America closing and the development west of it and the access road for it? What could be developed there?
Well, what could be is, our downtown development has some very specific on what could be built there. We're looking at some sort of mixed-use development. Now, we don't own the property, so it ultimately gets developed there. We'll have a help shape, but we can't technically, we still need to find someone to build it. The Bank of America building, from what we understand, has been sold, and it's now both the 8 acres behind it and the Bank of America building. Basically, that whole corner, except for Dr. Diekey's building, is under common ownership.
There's another question. It just says 515 Irving Park. I assume that's that property. It's got to be 500.
This is 550.
515, or
Is that maybe where the bright spot was?
no. It is the bank property. Okay, it is the bank property. For the mayor, see what happens when you talk longer than 5 minutes? Can the village get or rent a vacuum for the fall leaves? A big vacuum for the fall leaves.
We do have a vacuum that we come across. It's pretty big, but maybe it's not big. I don't know if someone is looking on, could we then blow leaves into the streets so that we wouldn't have to rake them and bag them? We've looked into that situation, and it really causes more problems with the leaves getting into our storm sewers and that, and causes more problems. That I know maybe it's a pain in the butt to put them in the bag, but we do have free yard pickup, so you don't at least have to pay to dispose of them. So it would cause more damage in our storm sewer than it's worth.
Is there anything, for the mayor, is there anything more you'd like to add on the future development on Walnut Street and Irving Park Road?
Walnut and, you mean if they're talking about the holiday properties?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe, Carrie Ann, if you could talk, we don't have a whole lot to add. It's just they've been approved. It's an 87-unit apartment building, 5 stories. We'll have a ground floor restaurant building, which they have a letter of intent for a restaurant to go in there. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So it's basically a luxury, it's a luxury concierge apartment apartment complex. They've successfully opened in several other municipalities, including Downers Grove. They have a concept, I believe it's Glen Ellen, Lombard, Westmont. And so they're really transit-oriented developers looking to really go to the market of, for the most part, young professionals who are, kind of just starting out and looking to have facilities and kind of community right in the same place. So young professionals. And so I think it's, that's what they are. They should be closing on properties. They have purchase and sale agreements and closing on properties. We actually are getting engineering. We've been going back into engineering, should have full plans in this summer, and they're looking at breaking ground in early fall. So everything seems to be on track with that. These projects, when they're the multi-unit and they have to do acquisition and from beginning to end, they generally take about 4 years. So it's one project you probably heard us first talk about last year, and now you're hearing us talk about, okay, well, groundbreaking is going to be this year. So it's not an overnight process, but it seems to still be on track, if that's the question.
Is there any other plans on Walnut Street? I know you talked about the Keen's Bakery. Is there anything else going on Walnut Street?
Not really that's gone very far. I know a couple of the property owners are interested in selling their properties. As far as I know, those properties haven't sold yet. So the Keen's property is the only property at this point in time that the village owns and can control. Everything else is in someone else's hands, and nothing has sold as far as I know. You haven't heard anything about any properties selling, have you?
No, I haven't heard about any properties selling, but we do have an application for a new business, a new potential restaurant on Walnut, where Casale's, which is a restaurant that they decided to retire. Basically, he decided to retire. That business is in the process of being sold, and they're in the process right now of getting their new approvals to open up. So I think that will probably take, between them going back and forth to the state to get their approvals and us, probably 6 weeks. But that process is underway right now. They're not going to be selling, though. That's going to be a lease arrangement. So it'll just be the restaurant turning over. And they're looking at doing a rebranding and making a kind of a significant improvement, is my understanding.
For the mayor, is the Itasca Police Department fully staffed?
Yes, I'm actually pleased to report we're actually one officer over our authorized limit for the first time in a long time. And part of the reason that the board has decided to do that is it really takes a long time to get a new police officer if we can even find one. So we've now decided there's a couple potential retirements we may have in the next couple years, so we want to make sure that we're ready if that happens. So.
Again, for the mayor, will there ever be an over or underpass at any of the railroad crossings, like Prospect or Rolling?
Not that I'm aware of. Really, for the most part, they're very expensive, and with Rolling Road, that's a state road. I don't know that the state would ever build it. Plus, even if they did, I don't know that you could ever, certainly at Rolling Road, you would have to go over Irving and the train, so I don't know that that would even be feasible. Maybe at Prospect, but it couldn't be an underpass there because of the creek. It would have to be an overpass, and I'm still not sure there's enough distance from Irving Park Road to the train tracks to get people up and over it.
In regards to the nature center, so I don't know if that's the Park District or the village. Pardon? Okay. You both can't turn it down, though. Why does the village spray for ticks at the nature center? In the first place, it shouldn't be applied to a nature center. I have found ticks on one, and friends have found them also. So it doesn't work. You're paying for something that doesn't work.
Jeff?
Yeah, I didn't even know we were spraying for ticks. So
I think they're ticked off.
Well, just a little background. Someone today told me that they and another person walking through the nature center had 3 ticks on them. more than they've ever had. So in the nature center, there is a tick issue, but we don't spray for ticks. It's not our property, you know, we run the programming there, but ticks aren't under, you won't find ticks in our book, so, sorry.
You do, okay.
Can you repeat that, Jeff? They
Okay.
can't hear.
Yeah, they do say we do spray for ticks one time. One time a year, I'm assuming? Okay. Have we ever looked if it works? Maybe we should evaluate that contract next year, but.
I do know, I've read, this is a banner year for ticks. It's an extremely banner year for ticks.
It is, and in the Nature Center, I think one of the things that's challenging just is because we're right next to a forest preserve that does not spray, and the open space next to the highway, and they don't treat that, and so it is a challenge, even when we do we do ticks and mosquitoes, and they just don't respect the boundaries at all. I don't understand, but.
It's those darn deer carrying them across. For the mayor, I understand the idea of downtown redevelopment. However, strongly disagree with tearing down the 2 buildings on Orchard Street across from the train station. Other locations should have been chosen.
Well, again, we got a lot of resident input, and I know not everyone's in agreement. The village board wasn't in full agreement on what should happen, but the residents did overwhelmingly decided that this was a development that was in the right spot, so.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I just might add that staff, so the developer actually found these 2 parcels on their own. So it wasn't parcels that the village identified for them. Village had actually given them other spots, and they kind of looked at this spot because they were available and the owners were willing to sell them. So that's part of what makes development possible, is whether or not the property owners are willing to sell.
For the mayor, and I'm not going to identify them completely, but I do pass the cards out so that they do see all the specific information. But there are 2 homes in town that need some attention. Both of them have a lot of junk in the backyard, and it looks like maybe a business is being run. Who can they contact? The neighbors deserve better.
Yeah, well, we talked, you can contact community development, you can call the village regular line at 773-0835, or you can do it on the, online. Did the card list those addresses?
It tells the blocks that they're on.
Okay, because we will get the cards and we'll look at that, but if you have more specifics, please share. Carrie Ann, those complaints are anonymous, correct? So, I mean, they don't have to give their names for
They
the
don't have
complaint,
to give
so
their names, so that if you
don't have
call
to-
in, you don't have to provide your name, you can just provide
the address, and then we'll look at it.
Never had this question before. I guess I'll give it to the mayor. I think what they're saying is, how come this program didn't begin with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good question. We'll take that into account, and we can start next year's with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Another one on ticks. For the mayor, what does it take to become a home rule community?
There's 2 ways to become a home rule community. You can get it automatically if your population goes above 25,000. And then the second way to get it is is by referendum, which many of you may have been following. Roselle just did have a referendum to go to home rule, which was successful. Itasca has tried it a couple times. We've been close. We just haven't gotten it. We are in discussions of possibly looking at it again, and if anyone has any, I think it would be good for the village, but we do need the voter approval to do it.
Okay, and I think you've answered both of these already. For the mayor, in regards to the downtown development, is there a plan to knock down all the old buildings and completely reconstruct the landscape? Or what is the expected timeline for completion of the new development?
I wouldn't say we have plans we really don't have plans to knock down the whole area. Certain buildings could get repurposed. We're looking at that with the Keynes building. I think that will be repurposed without being torn down. Some of that we're at the, will depend on what the property owners decide, because they really hold the true cards. If they're not willing to sell, that might not be in the cards, or if they can't find someone to build it. So right now, there's a plan out there. The plan, I would say, is we'll look at everything when it becomes available to see what might fit there.
And I've only got about seven or eight questions left, so we'll be able to get through everything here. For the mayor, or maybe it's fire, I don't know. Will the train transport hazmat materials?
I believe that they can. We did talk about it. I think they haven't made any guarantees either way. They certainly can if they choose to.
Yeah, they do, and they regularly do. One of the issues that we have currently is that the fire department has provided a manifest after it goes through, but not in advance of any hazardous materials going through the community, which is a little late. But again, federal law doesn't require them to provide, doesn't require them to be forthcoming about what's coming through the community, only to report on it after the fact.
For the mayor, why aren't the Highland Games being held at Hamilton Lakes this year?
Well, the Highland Games had many successful years there. They kind of were running out of space, and so they decided they moved it to Wheaton. But it was more of they were running out of space up in that area was the main reason.
For the school district, what are the plans for St. Matthew's property?
So there's a few things to go with that one. So we just recently acquired the land. That was really over the last month or so. The first need is that we do use that parking lot for Franzen School. So we needed to maintain, to capture that. So that's a short-term plan. As far as the other ways to look at that, there's not really that many times when a piece of property like that opens up right next to one of the schools. So we really needed to jump on it to make sure that we had a few options. And the other one that I would kind of mention is that really twofold. We're really looking into some of the uses with some of the potential other taxing bodies for partnerships and looking at potential grant opportunities. But we do have a potential upcoming need in terms of that. We've mentioned the Orchard Street property a few times with holiday properties. And directly across from that is the district administration building. And so that might not be the right place for the district administration building in the future. So we need to have a couple options for where we might be able to put that.
Well, there was one question. We talked about a fire station on the north side of town. How about the police department?
We don't really, we won't have a station on the north side. We typically always have an officer on the north side, so there really isn't a need for us to have a station on the north side like there is for the fire district.
For the school district, and I think this is referring to the pandemic times, with regards to the increases mentioned in math and reading, are these improvements from pre-2020 or 2021 levels? Were these drops during the year? Were there drops during the years, and these improvement increases are since then?
They're from last year. We did have a slight dip coming off the pandemic. I think some of the things we did to be successful in staying open and providing the choices impacted our students and our teachers in a way that didn't help us move forward. So out of the county, there's about 33 school districts, and only 4 of them offered the choice to offer both in-person and remote instruction. And so that changed us a little doing it, and I think we did have a little bit a dip, but I'll tell you the scores we have now are very high compared to other districts, and that's 2 or 3 years after the pandemic. And just to go back to the earlier point, looking at investments in athletics and fine arts, if you just humor me for a moment, and I look out at the audience, and I'm going to give the mayor a break for the questions. You know, being that I'm a teacher, I want you to raise your hand if you've ever been in a sport in your school time. Now I want you to raise your hand if you did fine arts. Keep your hand up if you were in sports. Now raise it for fine arts. Now look around the room. That's what the children in this community deserve. So a lot of schools cut corners with fine arts and athletics, and I'm telling you, it's one of the most impactful things for children to participate in sports and athletics. And sometimes they'll pump up their scores at the expense of fine arts and athletics. We don't do that. We want our children to have a holistic experience. And as you look out here with sports and athletics, those are impactful learning experiences. So did we slip a little off the pandemic? Yeah. Could we be better? Absolutely. Did we deliver this year? Yes.
Hand raised for those that were not any good in those sports. Oh. But I played them. Where can the motorized scooters drive? On sidewalks or streets?
Well, they can, correct me if they can drive on the sidewalks, but they have to go less than 10 miles per hour.
That got the most response, that question. Okay. And the last question, there appears to be an increase in train horns. Any idea what the reason is? I heard one the other night, and it was like, I haven't heard one of those in a
Well,
while.
our quiet zone is, it's a voluntary, so they don't have to follow it. I don't know, Carrie Ann, if you have any reason on why they aren't following it, but.
No, so they were doing some work on the spur that caused some additional, so they were doing some work on the spur line that is right here in town, and so that was causing some of the conductors to kind of blast while they were doing that. That work has been completed, so you know, but again, they are voluntary quiet zones. The federal government does not allow local, state, or themselves to enforce them. They're voluntary. If you hear them, please call the village. Tell us when you heard it, what time you heard it, especially in the evening, if you can give me a time in that, because we actually report them as they, you know, were non-compliant for the quiet zone. And if there is enough of them, then there's a process that the federal government allows us to go through to actually try to get some mediation there.
Okay. And that's it on questions. It's great to see, you know, we're coming out of the pandemic well here on the town meeting, so it's great to see so many of you here tonight, and a lot of great questions on that. So, and we'd like to thank all our speakers and you, the audience, for your participation in the 32nd Shape of Itasca Town meeting. We look forward to next year's program. Have a good night. Thank you.